Yes, we are live, and this is the Teachathon EdTech conference. Yeah, whatever you might call it. It's the Teachathon 24-hour online global conference, and we're excited to have online with us the great Dan Mcguire. Uh, Dan is an open aficionado, is an EdTech expert. Talk of it. I've known him. This is my first time of actually seeing Dan online face to face, but I've seen a whole lot of his posts while being on the open education platform. And Dan is really, really an awesome person. So thank you, Dan, for coming around. We really, really appreciate this opportunity that you're giving everyone that's going to be watching right now and those that are going to be watching later the presentation that you have today.
Thank you, John. It's great to be here with you. You're doing a fabulous service to educators all over the world, and I'm really honored to be able to join you.
Thank you so much for the word. And you've been presenting something very deep into Moodle and other things. And I love Moodle. I've been involved in Moodle for years, and I would really love to learn some more things from the expert. Thank you. So I'm going to be bringing your slide up right now.
Okay. All right. I recorded this presentation because I'll be showing you a couple of different applications, a Moodle application, as well as the Geogebra application, and therefore I wanted to record it so that we minimized any potential problems we might have accessing those various different platforms. So I'll start the presentation now. If anybody has any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. We can stop the presentation, or there will be time after the presentation as well. Either way. So here we go. I'll begin now. Hi, my name is Dan Mcguire. I'm a former middle school math teacher, and I began using Moodle in my classroom 13 years ago. In the US where I live, we call grades 6, 7, and 8 middle school. Students are usually 11, 12, and 13. This presentation today will demonstrate how a top-rated math curriculum can be used in an online classroom. We do this by combining the top-rated math curriculum, Illustrative Mathematics, with the Geogebra apps and Moodle Learning Management System. Here's a short video that Geogebra made when they announced the release of their Illustrative Mathematics apps a little over a month ago on August 7th.
Hey everybody, I'm Tim, and joining me here are some awesome Geogebra community members. In particular, I'd like to introduce to you Monique Zhao. Monique has recently led the Geogebra team on a very special project that we are excited to officially release to you today. Monique, tell us more about it, please.
Absolutely. Geogebra has taken the entire Illustrative Math middle school curriculum and made it 100% digitally accessible for teachers and students who are starting remote learning in the fall.
Wow, did Geogebra make any changes to the IM 6 to 8 curriculum?
No, the IM 6 to 8 middle school curriculum is a great curriculum already, so we haven't changed it. Instead, we made all the components of every lesson digitally accessible.
Well, could you explain to us what you mean by digitally accessible, please?
Yeah, teachers can now actively engage their students with the conceptual reasoning and productive struggle already inherent in the IM curriculum. And teachers can use Geogebra Classroom to formatively assess and monitor all of their students' progress in real time. No screen sharing required.
Really?
Yeah, you can check out my screen. We're working on an activity where students are trying to build the largest cube from 32 unit cubes. And Tim, I can tell you haven't even started yet.
Ooh, I better not slack off then. I promise I'll get to work. Just one more question. I see the curriculum on Geogebra's homepage, yet I only see unit 1s for all grades. What about units 2, 3, and beyond?
We'll release the later units based upon IM's pacing guide, so teachers have it ahead of time. We're ahead of schedule at the moment and plan to remain that way.
That is awesome. Monique, thank you so much. And math teachers everywhere, we hope this helps you take the stress off of the mandated remote learning that many of you have to face. And we wish you and your students the absolute best of health, first and foremost. And we also wish you and your students continued academic success this year.
To summarize the points made on this video, Geogebra has taken a curriculum, Illustrative Mathematics, that was designed to be delivered in an in-person classroom and made it entirely digitally accessible. And they do this, they make it accessible for synchronous online classrooms like Zoom, Google Meets, and Microsoft Teams. When they do this, teachers can see in real time what students are working on in the lessons. Now, I'll add one more point here about that video. They said that in the video, they said they just have the first units of each grade done. Well, since the month has passed, Geogebra has completed 3 more units in each classroom. So they now have the first 4 units in every grade level completed. And I don't doubt that in the next month or 2, they'll have the entire year completed. Now, as I said, we've taken those Geogebra Illustrative Mathematics apps and combined them with Moodle to provide even more advantages for online learning. Now, here's a short video, which is less than 2 minutes, that introduces Moodle for those of you who might not be familiar with it.
Meet Maria. Maria is an educator at Orange Academy, teaching a variety of courses, including media studies, economics, and history. Because she uses Moodle, her learners can easily access these courses, check their progress, and see what they need to do. Maria teaches her courses in English, but Moodle works in over 100 languages. She and her learners are able to quickly talk to each other in Moodle and stay in touch through the messaging and notification functionality. Maria gets her learners to share ideas in forums, engages them with media, and uses quizzes to check their understanding. They can submit assignments on the go from their smartphones, and Maria can comfortably grade them wherever she chooses. Moodle's tools help Maria inspire and support her learners. Moodle is used in every country in the world by educators just like Maria, in K-12 classrooms and higher education institutions. Moodle is also widely used for training, professional development, and inductions in many organizations and businesses of various sizes. There are hundreds of millions of Moodle users globally, and this number keeps rising. What makes Moodle the world's open source learning platform is our commitment to open processes and development, build and support together with a huge and diverse global community of users. Our mission is to empower educators like Maria with powerful, flexible tools that will contribute to and are resulting in improvements to our world. Explore the various ways to get started with your own Moodle site at moodle.com.
Here's a few key points from the Moodle video. First, the Moodle course makes it easier to access the Geogebra apps, and Moodle is available in many languages. Moodle makes it easy for students to keep track of their progress, and Moodle provides more ways for students and teachers to communicate and for students to communicate with each other. And there are multiple types of assessments available in Moodle. And Moodle and Geogebra can be used with mobile devices, which increases their utility for many students. Now, before we go on and take a look at the course, let's consider a couple of basic questions. Why are we using Geogebra and Moodle? Well, Mike Walker, a digital learning specialist who's been a collaborator of mine for many years, observed this past spring one of the things I was noticing too. Mike said, when they first go online, teachers are trying to figure out the best way to replicate in an online environment the walking around the classroom, giving quick formative feedback, and asking questions like they do in a face-to-face classroom. And of course, they miss the spontaneity of the classroom. Now, the Geogebra Classroom app allows teachers to virtually look over the shoulder of their students when they're working on problems in their synchronous video conferencing classroom. And then Moodle adds asynchronous communication between students and teachers and between students, while additionally, Moodle adds additional ways to assess student learning. So let's take a look at the course. Here's what the Moodle course looks like as it provides access to the Geogebra apps. First, notice that we've included links to the teacher material for the unit. Each illustrative mathematics unit has extensive materials that teachers can use to prepare for the teaching lessons. I'll click on this and give you a look at what that looks like. It's actually a very extensive book. Each unit, so here's the first unit. There's a lesson narrative that explains in detail what the teacher can use when talking to the students. The learning goals for the unit, or the lesson, excuse me, are spelled out, and the standards, the Common Core standards that this lesson is correlated to are listed here. And then there's glossary entries for those terms that are important to student understanding for this lesson. And then, in addition to the teacher material, there's parent material for the unit. And so this is a different set of materials. The parent materials describe in a language that is easy for parents to understand what their child will be learning in each part of the lesson. This is very useful if you've ever had students studying math concepts that you may not have studied for a few years. And again, there is one of these explanatory sections for each unit, and I'll just give you a quick look here. You can go to any of those grades to find parent materials. So there's teacher material, parent materials, and then you can see that we've created 3 different forums or discussions at the top of each unit. One for announcements, one for students to ask questions privately to their teachers, and where the teachers can then respond privately to the students. We call that the talk to your teacher. And then there's a talk to your classmates. Creating these specific tools for communication makes online learning much more enjoyable for students. Again, remember, students are missing each other and they need ways to connect to each other. It's also really important for learning. And then we've included specific directions for how students can create a new topic. Now, there's several different ways for students to take the work that they create in the app and transfer it to Moodle. We think teaching students how to take a screenshot and then submit those for the assignments and practice problems is the best way to go. And that's the way we've set up this course. If your school uses Google Classroom, you could use that, but we wanted to create a simple method that doesn't require using Google, which is free but not open source. And it also has some rather questionable compliance with data privacy regulations, especially beyond the US shores. So now notice that for this first unit, there are a number of different lessons, and each lesson has their own activities. So for the first lesson, we've created a link to the Geogebra apps. So I'll give you an example of what that looks like. You can see this is the problems within the Geogebra app. There's a place where students can write things. Students respond right here on the app. Students can practice seeing what the different shapes look like by adjusting these applets here. And then there's some interactive course building tools so that students can create their own shapes. And so students can make lots of these in various different sizes and shape. The beauty of these applets is that students they have shapes and forms that they can play with. It's not merely abstract words. It's really useful for lots of students. So let's go back to the course here. So there's a link to both the lesson activities and the practice activities for each lesson. Notice that's consistent throughout here. Here's another lesson, another link to the activities. There's an explanation and a discussion. There's practice activities with an explanation and a discussion. We've kept this very consistent, this process. Now, we did this to minimize the cognitive overload that's required of students when they're first going online. We want to keep as much as possible consistent. Now, the actual content within the apps, of course, is going to continue to vary. So it's useful then to have the method for responding and communicating and sharing with each other consistent. So that's why we keep the tools consistent, and then the content varies. Now there's lots of other types of activities that Moodle allows you to build, and it's not that we don't like them, it's just that we think that in the beginning when you're first starting out, it's important to just stick with these simple tools that enable you still to do a lot of things and for the benefit of both the teacher and the student. After everyone is very comfortable with using these tools, of course, it would be fine to add things like a quiz or a wiki or some kind of choice modules. But I wouldn't encourage people to do that until they're very comfortable with these. And then again, if you use other apps besides Moodle and Geogebra, of which there are hundreds, if not thousands of them out there, we recommend that you create an assignment or a forum discussion for students to report back to you and the class what they did and what they learned on those other apps or websites. So in general, the lesson explanation is used to collect information from the student specific to the teacher. Those for individual submissions by a student to the teacher. And then the discussions are where students submit things and for the whole class to see, and then they comment on each other's submissions. Now, using just a discussion, you can virtually walk around your classroom. You'll be able to make more assignments that are easy to turn in. and easy for you to comment on grade. And as I said before, you can use other apps, but have them come back here and report to you using the discussion so other students can see what they've learned as well. Use the LMS to help you keep track of everything. Remember, it's a learning management system. And very importantly, a discussion will provide you a way to ask each of your students how they're doing. The Talk to Your Teacher forum is set up with each student in their own group, which makes the discussions private between the student and the teacher. This is useful because then students can use the same tool as they use for other activities instead of using either a messaging system or email. And of course, using a discussion, it'll provide you a way to give feedback to each other. And I would encourage you to include specific directions about what students should say in their feedback to other students. There are rubrics available to be used in both the assignment and the forum. So the rubrics enable you to tailor the specific focus of each discussion that you want to focus on. Hopefully, as the year goes on, the types of learning points that you grade will increase, but you have all of that flexibility built into the Moodle system. Now, when I started using discussions with students in my class, they really enthusiastically took off commenting on each other's work. It really was a great way for students that maybe weren't so eager to speak up in class. They frequently then were much more willing to share things in online than they were in class. And one of the other things that you can do with both assignments and discussions is create groups. Now, I wouldn't encourage you to do that when you first start, but very soon you'll see how it would be useful to break students up into smaller groups so that they don't have to respond to so many different students. So both the assignment and the forum are a way for students to go to the board and show what they know. Now, just to summarize a couple of the points that I've made here, using discussions and assignments are a way for you to provide student self-efficacy and a sense of belonging and a perceived value of the curriculum. So when you give students ample opportunity to respond to each other, and then when you grade their responses, that demonstrates that has value, and it increases that perceived value that the students have of the curriculum. It will increase their attention and engagement. Now, these are three elements that are necessary for any course, really, but they're especially important for young middle school students in an online environment. It gives them ample opportunities to express themselves, and it gives them opportunities to talk to each other about their work. And of course, a strong and frequent teacher presence and communication with the students will make the curriculum a lot more valuable to students than a website that they just click around on. And this, I'll mention again, it's worth repeating. If you send a student to another website or another app, create a discussion for them to tell you and their peers about their experience on the other website. That's essentially what we're doing with the Geogebra app. They're going out to the Geogebra app, and then they're taking a screenshot of what they did on that app, bringing it back into the discussion in an assignment to show you individually or in a forum to show the whole class collectively, and then for students to then comment on each other's work. And really, teaching and learning is essentially all about sharing. And the Geogebra apps used within a Moodle course make it easier to share. That's what it's all about. Thank you. That's the gist of what I'd like to share with you today. And if you would like to be able to log in to a sample course using Moodle and Geogebra, send me a note and I'll give you a username and a password. Right now we have almost 12 of these courses, 3 each in both 6th, 7th, and 8th grade for you to sample with. So if you have a preference for either 6th grade, 7th grade, or 8th grade, indicate that too. Here is my Twitter and here's my email address. Please contact me with any questions you have. And now I think I have a few minutes for a few questions. Okay, how do I turn that off? I'm not sure, John, how I turn that off, but oh, here, I think I'll just click on this and see if that does it. That stops it. Yeah, there we are, back. Now, so that's the, as I said, the gist of the presentation that I wanted to give you. Excuse me. And let me reiterate a couple of points here. Everything that I've shown you here so far today is free and it's openly licensed, which means that you can have it for free. You can copy it, you can revise it, you can put it into a different language, you can put it onto different platforms. You can use it any way you want to. The only thing you can't do is sell it because these are licensed. Both, although the illustrative mathematics courses are licensed in such a way that you could sell them, both Geogebra and the Moodle course are licensed with a non-commercial license, so you can't sell those. You can only use them for non-commercial enterprises. Now, excuse me. Now, the other thing we could say is that we could spend days talking about the particular content in each of the lessons in the Geogebra apps and the illustrative mathematics content. I mean, in fact, illustrative mathematics offers week-long professional development courses on the curriculum. That's why it's so important to have those links to the teacher materials and the parent materials because it's complex teaching. What we've tried to do is just make it, simplify it to get people started. And again, there's days-long workshops that you can do with Moodle. And you can, the more you use that, the more you'll be able to do with it. So if I'll take a pause here and see if anybody has any questions. One of the things I'll add is that these Moodle courses that we have, we plan to distribute them via MoodleNet once that's up and running. So whichever course that you want, whichever unit that you want, either in 6th, 7th, or 8th grade, you'll be able to go and just download that course from MoodleNet. We're also talking to a couple of other platforms to be able to distribute those courses as whole courses. currently today, if you want access to those courses, you'll need to send me an email requesting them, and then I'll send you one of the files that you then download into your Moodle course. I can also mention that the Moodle courses will work in other learning management systems. So you could take the Moodle course and import that into Canvas or Schoology or Blackboard if you happen to be using those proprietary learning management systems. Again, we focus on Moodle because it's free and open source. And if you don't currently have Moodle, if you go to the Moodle website, you can see all the various different options that they have for creating your own Moodle site. Any teacher can create a Moodle site for free. I think they're now allowing up to as many as 200 different students. I'm not quite sure about that. They were just allowing 50 students, but I think in the last few months they've increased that to maybe as many as 200. But even if you need more students than that, the Moodle Cloud installations are relatively inexpensive. So that's the presentation we have for today. I'll just pause here for a little bit to see if anybody else has any questions. Again, I encourage you to send me a note if you have questions, if you want to experiment with these courses, take a look, or if there's anything that we could help you with regarding your Moodle courses or illustrative mathematics. I'll also mention that Geogebra has an extensive catalog of videos that you can look up online that show you lots of ways to use both the Geogebra apps, the illustrative mathematics apps, but in addition to that, Geogebra has all kinds of interactive math activities without using illustrative mathematics. And likewise, Moodle has, if you do a Google search on any aspect of teaching, you can most likely get articles or videos showing you exactly what you need to do. And it's all free. So I'll pause there to see if there's any more questions. Let me know. It's a pleasure to be able to connect with everyone. This is important work, and we're happy to be able to support you in any way that we can. So thank you.
Okay, so Dan,
Yeah, hi.
yeah, thank you for that session. And it's so important that uh, uh, for me, after the teachathon, I'm going to really sit down with this particular session because now there's a whole lot of things you've actually jot together that will really be very, very effective setting up I mean on doing a Moodle platform, setting it up properly and using it for all those add-ons. It's very, very important to be able to know some of the nuances because now so many people are going to be, they will be required to use Moodle right now, and some of those effects are going to be very, very important. Yes.
Yeah, and right now, I think, and that's one of the things we hope to do is demonstrate how you can use Moodle to incorporate other tools into it. And it's especially important, and I'm so grateful to Geogebra for the work that they've done. I mean, they've been just phenomenal. I'll also add that um, on my presentation, I said they've completed the first 3 units in each grade. Well, I checked this morning, and they released another unit in each grade. So
Wow.
they've now done 5 units in each grade. So that roughly translates to 5 months worth of content. So
Mm.
if you're a seventh or an eighth or a ninth grade, sixth, seventh, or eighth grade teacher, that should take you up through February. And
Wow.
and I don't, as I said, I don't doubt that by the end of the month they'll have the entire year done. So
Mm.
that's a lot of content, and it's also, I mean, that's the kind of math that can be used in lots of places in the world. Um,
Yeah.
and lots of places teach math and English, I think, and
Yes.
even if you're not teaching in English, just the math concepts themselves, because they're digitally accessible like that, it, it, it still makes it easy for students to do some work with it, even if they don't have their language represented. So I think there's a lot of people that could use it.
Yeah, and because Moodle is a very well used widespread program LMS. Um, so many people are going to they at this period they will be adopting Moodle and be working on it much more. And the fact that it's presenting a whole lot of materials, GeoGebra is presenting a whole lot of materials that are going to be that signed into Moodle at those early stages really makes it very, very portable and good use to
Yes.
those grades. And that's when a lot of students struggle with maths. Um, so it's an opportunity for teachers to actually have something as an added on, kind of like, okay, yeah, you're going to try this, make the mistakes, repeat yourself, and do something. And by the time they try it
Yep.
over and over again, they get different ways and find it's fun to them, and at the same time they're solving problems. They're going to be better with it.
It's also, if classrooms get to go back to in-person teaching, this is still a good method to use. I mean, I started out using Moodle in my face-to-face classroom, 13 years ago. Um, and that was because it worked well. Students liked working on their devices. I was fortunate to teach in a school then where where students had access to devices, and they like students like working with devices. And it's so it, one of the nice things about using a combination of tools like this is that if we get to go back to in-person teaching, we can still use them, and
Yeah.
so there's a good transfer there.
And yeah, and that's very, very important because now, like, that's one of the reasons why we're having this conference because now we have to start to think about it in a kind of like a mainstream way. That yeah, it's not just that we're going to have a pandemic. Everybody will move to trying to do remote, and then pandemic is over, and we'll think we can actually still go back to how things is going run without taking cognizance of the fact that some things have really, really helped to keep learning going forward. And in fact, I believe that apart from the fact that yeah, we have all the different rates of out of school children now, for those that have been able to take some time and do online use online materials, they will discover learning on a different level
Absolutely.
rather than just face to face. And some of the students will kind of like say, okay, I can learn from home right now. Just give me the materials, give me the stuff. I'm going to go through it, and I'll be fine.
Yeah. And it also it opens up what the online tools do. It opens up the classroom, expands it both in terms of space and time. So you're no longer merely confined to the time that you're with students in the classroom.
Yeah.
So it's very expansive. Students can, get help from their parents, their uncles, and it's really useful. And one of the things I'll mention is when I started using Moodle in the classroom, I was teaching in a school in Minneapolis, and we had over 14 different languages spoken with among the 30 students in my classroom. So it was a very diverse classroom. I had students from every continent except Antarctica
Wow.
who had come there. And of course,
Yeah.
one of the things about this is parents love to be able to help their students with their work, right? If a parent can. And when you put the assignments online, what happens then is I had one mother who couldn't speak or read English very well, but she had a brother who worked in Washington, D.C., who was very conversant in English. So she would call him up and talk to him on her cell phone, and he would translate the lessons for her so this mother could then help her daughter with her schoolwork. So, I mean, it was perfect. It empowered the parents, and
Yeah.
it's a way of including more people in a student's learning. And that's one of the really cool things I like.
So yeah, so many cool things right now, and um, educators just need to get themselves into some of the things that experts like Dan, so many people in the open community have actually been putting a lot of effort to push for several years,
Yeah.
and it's now the time for it, and yeah, we get to see how this could pay off on every level.
Yeah.
And like when people started to ask me, who are the audience for this conference? I said, educators at every level. And what you've shared is definitely for educators at every level, because now everyone can actually do something with what we have right now. And the affordance is that some of these technologies have actually afforded us. And open technologies have been really, really wonderful. That's why I love using a lot of stuff. You get online, you see so many wonderful open projects that you need to be part of, and they are the ones on top of, and they have a great community supporting them, and that makes them really, really good.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Dan.
It's great to connect with you, John. I'll
Yeah,
look forward to talking to you some more, and let's get students learning all over.
yeah, that's the mindset. Thank you so much,
Okay.
Dan. I'm really excited that you were able to make it, and really,
Me too.
despite your very busy schedule. So thank you so much once again. So we'll
Thank you,
we'll
John.
we'll, we'll get in touch.
Okay.
Person.
All
Yeah,
right.
thank you very much.
Take
Yeah,
care. Have a great
yeah.
rest of the conference.
Hey,
I'll be
uh,
checking a couple of these sessions coming up. They look terrific.
Okay, yeah, we have Dr. Nathan Langrad with video coming up next right now, and it's going to really be awesome. And within your session, we had like 4 sessions simultaneously. Right? It's been really
Yeah,
really wonderful.
I got to go back now and be able to see the stream so I can see what's been going on while I've been presenting.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, you better go do that. So you'll be able to see those things, and then in the YouTube channel as well. The conversation
All
can
right.
actually continue. We're going to post some more, and we're going to still do a whole lot of, because this is a whole lot of content in 24 hours. So we now start to kind of like really package them and then push it. That people should really, there are a whole lot of things that people really need to learn, go over again, and then start to make use of. So it's very very important. So thank you for contributing your very best to this. Thank you so much.